So I've played rugby since I was about 10. We moved to Gloucestershire and there was a really strong women's rugby setup here. So we're a rugby mad family. I've always been around it. And then part of the decision about where I went to university was women's rugby and the availability. And Exeter came up as a really strong option. They had a great setup. I had a couple of mates who'd played there, and the coach, Joe Yap, at the time was the England under-20s coach for the women. So it just sounded like a great opportunity to develop my rugby and as well as study really hard, obviously. So I started in 2015 and graduated last year and played rugby the whole time. For the first team in the first couple of years. Then I had a year abroad in my third year and went back to play in my final year. Absolutely loved it. I've made some lifelong friends for sure. They really got me through some hard times and some really good times, and the social life that it brought as well. The setup at Exeter was really fantastic in terms of high performance. They had a special program that isn't always available to student athletes, but also not always to women rugby players. So we had 2 strength and conditioning sessions a week, 2 rugby training sessions a week, kind of tailored gym, weight sessions, which was awesome for me, probably as close as I'll get to a sort of professional environment. I absolutely loved it. It was a really great experience.
So mine's not as cool as yours, but I will try. I started playing rugby when I was 5 as well. Little club called Hartpury Rovers, known as the Monkey Hangers. I think it was World War One. Apparently they found a monkey on the beach and they hung the monkey because they thought it was a French spy or a German spy. I'm not sure which one it is, but that's a cool story. Started playing then, played all the way through. I actually went to South Africa for 2 years when I was 18. I was born there as well, but I went back out when I was 18. I played out there for 22 months. And then I came back from South Africa when I played National 3 down in Hull, or across in Hull. Not sure I'd recommend that, but I did it. Life experience, carry on. And then I went to DMP for a year, down to Mowden Park, played there for a year, and I met a guy called Darren Fern, who's been an absolute light in my life, absolute legend of a bloke. He was the coach at Northumbria Uni, so I played a season with him down at DMP. And then he asked if I wanted to go to university. And in my family, I don't know anyone with a degree in my family. So going to uni probably wasn't even in the back of my mind, never mind the front of my mind or any part of my mind, really. And my ideology behind going to uni was literally just to play rugby. But I thought I wouldn't pigeonhole myself a degree. I thought I'd just try and pick a nice broad degree. So I chose a business degree. Went to Northumbria, did 2 years there with Darren. I still haven't finished my degree, but it's still ongoing, so I can do this still. Played at Northumbria for 2 years, played students both years. Daz was the coach on both of them, which was pretty cool. He was the assistant forwards coach in the first one and then the head coach in the second one. And then out of uni, so that was the reason I paused my degree, was because I received an offer from Hartpury to come play in the championship. So I thought my dream is to play professional rugby, and you can transfer a degree online nowadays, which is pretty cool. So I thought I'd go for it. And now I'm into my second season with Hartpury. Obviously, coronavirus stopped everything else. But it's been pretty cool. We've been quite lucky. We're still training every day, or every other day. Pretty cool. It's where we're at now.
Fantastic. And you, Ellen, you had a slightly different experience, obviously coming from the official side, being a referee. So do you want to tell us about how you came to become one of the younger student referees?
Yeah, so I started playing rugby like everyone else when I was about 5 or 6, where my dad was sort of working in Hong Kong's junior rugby development and stuff like that. So my whole family, my brothers and everyone was sort of part of the rugby setup. So we started off playing rugby. And then when I got to about 12, I realized I wasn't very good at playing rugby and I didn't like getting tackled too much. So I just went, I'll probably give it a rest for a bit of time. And so a few years later on, my dad, who used to referee as well, sort of encouraged me to pick up the whistle because I was watching the Rugby World Cup and everything like that. And so he went, why don't you give it a go and see whether you like it or not? So I started refereeing in Hong Kong and at the age of 16. And so I was really just feeling my way around the bottom leagues in Hong Kong. So the women's leagues and the men's leagues, basically just getting an experience. And since then, I've moved to Manchester, studying law at the University of Manchester. So, and that's been a different experience where the people over there try to include me and move me through the ranks a bit more. So I've experienced basically all levels of community rugby from level 13 to level 6. And so it's been quite the journey since then, but also I've had the opportunity to experience stuff like refereeing campus league games and stuff like that. And so now, obviously with the coronavirus, I'm not in the UK and I've gone to live with my family in South Australia. And that's also opened some new opportunities refereeing in the Premiership over here. So it's been a really good experience for me.
It was funny because Alan said he realised he wasn't very good when he got to like 12, and I did the same thing as well, but for some reason I just carried on playing. So, but yeah, so for this year, pretty much, it was actually quite cool. Obviously, the season ended early, which was a bit poo, but after that, you took a bit of time off, read a few books, but then you're allowed to sit back and make a decision to see how bad you wanted to do what you were trying to do, if you wanted to pursue rugby or not, because you obviously left to your own devices, sat at home. And it was up to you whether you woke up on the morning, went and trained and tried to stay fit, or whether you just decided to, not do anything and just get unfit and get fat or whatnot. So it was pretty cool for me just to kind of look in the mirror and just decide that this is still what I wanted to do, and I was still going to graft as hard as I could. And it was actually quite liberating, to be fair. During the lockdown period, probably trained the hardest I've ever trained, which was quite cool. And yeah, then coming down into Hartpury, we got together June the 22nd, I think it was this year, sorry. We were in our little small groups doing all our remote stuff. But they were really good, sent us all our fitness. Max Clemenson, he's my housemate and he works at a gym. So I got to use the gym with him, like not the gym, but we did it outside and everything, which was quite cool. So we had access to some like weights and things like that. So for me, to be honest, if I'm just going to keep it real, I've had a really good year, to be fair. It's been quite enjoyable. You get away from all the smelly rugby lads. You just got to go back to your own devices and just train, really. So that was pretty cool. Not sure about Katie and Alan, though.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting one. So when I graduated last year, I took jobs abroad, just as a bit of a break before I started like a proper job. So I was in France when it all kind of kicked off in March, in the Alps, and had to get back quite quickly. So I have like a long-term medical condition, which unfortunately meant I got put in the highest category. So I've had to shield basically since March back at home in Gloucestershire, which is fine. Obviously very grateful to be home and stuff, but when you've lived on your own and then moving back in with mum and dad and things like that is a bit of a challenge, but it's been fine. I've tried to, a bit like Josh said, like make the most of it and stay positive. Been doing a lot of running because that was kind of the only thing I could do, really. So lots of running, and then having that year out after uni, I sort of started to think, do I want to go back to rugby? If so, I didn't kind of know where I was going to be. Obviously, when I was abroad, I couldn't join a club or anything like that. So Joe, the former coach from Exeter, who I mentioned earlier, actually got in touch with me about joining a team in Worcester, which isn't that far from me. It's about half an hour. So before the second lockdown, I went and trained with them for a few times, and it was really good and just great to be back with a ball in my hand, really, after having best part of the year off. So yeah, that's been lockdown for me. Now I'm just back running again. But yeah, hopefully we can all get back soon.
Yeah, I think there are only two countries where rugby was played during the initial lockdown stages, and one of them was New Zealand, the other was Australia. So fortunately enough, my family's over here. So I was lucky enough to be part of the first competitions I got going in Australia since they restarted rugby and everything. So it's not like the UK where I get about 3 games a week. Over here, I'm lucky if I get about 2 games a week because there's not as much rugby in my area, but still it's a good run around and gives you a reason to go out and enjoy yourself a bit. So yeah.
I feel like you've severely underplayed just how good it's been having rugby.
Yeah.
Like I'm sat here just wishing I was playing those games that you're officiating. I know Katie will be as well.
Yeah, definitely. The Super Rugby, when the New Zealand games came back, it was like a godsend at the weekends to have something to watch.
And they didn't put it on too early as well. They put it on at like, I think it was the first game. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of obviously positive qualities credited to playing sports, and specifically university, and particularly team sports. And I'm wondering how do you see that rugby has affected your your ability to cope with difficult times or resilience in different situations?
Yeah, while I was at uni, I was on my year abroad, as I mentioned. On my third year, I got diagnosed with lymphoma, which was complete shock, obviously being a relatively fit and healthy person. And I genuinely don't think I would have got through it without the team at Exeter and sort of wider rugby community as well. And obviously my family, my parents and my sister were amazing. But yeah, the girls were awesome. I don't really know how to put it into words, what it meant. Obviously their teammate, I think all sports in particular, but rugby definitely, you see people at their best, at their worst. You're throwing your body around, in mud or rain or whatever, which isn't like a natural thing to do necessarily. So I think there's that bond with rugby teammates that you maybe don't get anywhere else. They see you in the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning when you're not really feeling it. And I think that definitely helped me in terms of like how I sort of approached it all. But the girls were fantastic. I decided that the whole time throughout my treatment, I was going to try and raise as much money for cancer research as possible, and the girls all got on board. I was running and I entered a couple of 10Ks towards the end of my treatment, and loads of them came and ran it with me. Loads of donations, not just from the girls I knew, but former students all across the Bucks Championship actually. And yeah, so I think that really stood me in good stead, having that support network, some really good friends, and then also having that thing to sort of work towards. So I was, I think, halfway through my chemo treatment, and they told me that it wasn't working quite as well as it should have been, and that I'd have to have radiotherapy as well, which we'd kind of been trying to avoid. And I got diagnosed in February, and my aim was to be back ready for September to go back into my final year. And we didn't know if this was going to happen, but I just kept thinking, okay, September. I just wanted to get back. And it was great I did manage to do that, and coming back in September, having been through all that, having all the girls there who knew everything that I'd gone through, and like getting back into the gym. Obviously I couldn't lift anywhere near what I was lifting before, but having that routine and them around me again was amazing. And it was like that familiarity that I really needed. So I think, yeah, rugby wise, it's all about resilience, getting up after every tackle that you make, and also just the bonds you form with people. I think it's a really special sport for that reason. So yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I can 100% pretty much verify or back up everything that Katie just said, to be fair. And then just from a general aspect, everybody in life goes through things, and it's so important that you have someone to talk to about it. And obviously in a rugby team, you have at least 14 others or 21 others or 22 others, but half the time it's 40 other people that you can speak to. And that's just so important. Just literally, you just need one person to sit down with, go grab a coffee. And again, when you're at uni, there's a lot of spare time. Especially if you skip your lectures, which you shouldn't do. But just in case you are, there's always someone there. And I think that's the most important thing about team sports in general, but rugby specifically. Like Katie was saying, when it's absolutely pouring down rain and you're flying off the line trying to chop someone's knees off and getting mud everywhere, and just it's absolutely crazy. You kind of look to the person on your left and your right, and you have a lot more respect for them, and you get to know them in ways that you probably don't get to know the humans. And I think that's one of the hugest things about rugby and team sports in general is once you get to know your teammates, you make just unbreakable bonds, and you get friends for the rest of your life. And it's so important to utilize that when you are in that environment as well. And it makes me so happy to hear that Katie obviously did utilize it, and all the girls got around it. And probably not the girls, probably the boys, probably everyone in the rugby community was all around it, which is pretty cool. But it is exceptionally important.
Yeah, I really resonate with what Katie and Josh have said so far. So especially Josh said that you guys have a team to get around you. And when you look at a referee, usually on a Saturday, if you're refereeing at community level, really there's just one person out there. And sometimes you do feel a bit lonely, especially when you've had a tight game, had a few decisions you are not too sure about. So it can be tough sometimes, but it's good that in rugby especially, I think that we have players who really respect referees compared to other sports. So I think it's important that we as referees are able to speak to players in a way that they are able to do the same to us. And I think in rugby, the communication between referees and players is pretty good compared to other sports. The conversation we have throughout the game and even before the game and after the game, where we set our standards and we talk about the game afterwards and have a few drinks afterwards as well. You know, it's just really good. The whole environment is good and it doesn't exclude the referee and it makes the referee feel welcome. As a referee, you sort of are expected to stay around for about 30 minutes and gives you a good chance to meet some players and make some friends. But also outside of the player environment, you also have referees that are within the same society or the same development group who help you along the journey. So I'm very fortunate because I'm a student referee. I don't have a car, and every game I go to, I'm going to take public transport. And there are some clubs that are really, really far away. So there are some 2-hour journeys. The longest journey I've been on is I think 6 hours one way. So that was a long day for me. But thankfully, there are some referees who go out their way to sort of take you to games, take you back, even if they're not refereeing at the same club. And the whole environment is just really nice. A really memorable experience I had was when I was in my first year where I wasn't going back home for Christmas. And I actually got an email from the president of our society who invited me over for Christmas dinner, which was something I thought was really, really special.
Awesome.
Like he just understood the difficulties I'd have. And, you know, there are a lot of untold stories about referees among the referee society. And I think also referees as humans instead of just referees and their role in the game. And I think there's a lot of untold stories there. And there are really, really a lot of good referees, good people.
I think I'm done actually trying to tackle people and getting bumped out the way. I'm just going to become a ref now. It sounds very nice.
Usually it's for number 9.
I think it links in really well with sort of as well like the inclusive aspect of rugby and how the respect for the referees is at the centre of the game. It always has been. And I think just as a sport, you know, it's the sort of cliche of all shapes and sizes, but it is true that there is a place for everyone on the pitch. And I think with university rugby especially, and women, talking from my perspective, there are a lot of girls who haven't played before, and that is the thing that they will all say when they come in is, oh, there is a space for everyone. I was made to feel so welcome. But it's the same with the referees as well, same with coaches, you know, everybody who sort of contributes. I think there's a real environment of inclusion, which I obviously biased, but I would say is quite unique to rugby.
I think also just building on that, you know, the game's always trying to find some more referees. It shouldn't be the case because you have about 30 players from both teams combined. All you need is one referee, and somehow we're still struggling. We're still having referees cover many games per week. So there's really an opportunity there to sort of encourage people to take up the whistle more because as players, I think they also help create a safe environment to get new referees in, and especially referees who are potentially from university who are relatively young, which is what you want in the game, to have sort of young referees coming through and having a self-sustaining sort of system to referee the university games as well.
There you go, Joshua Wood just said that he's going to go ahead and become a referee now.
Yeah, I'm literally, while you were talking now, I was just signing up online quickly. Started my whistle as well, just getting ready for the weekend. What would I be doing? Play quite a bit of Xbox. I don't know, maybe I'd have been that and try to do something with that. Yeah, not sure what I'd be doing, genuinely, in all honesty. Complete different world away, pretty much. I'm just happy that I went.
I'm not too sure what I'd be doing either because, you know, I watch a lot of different sports, but really the only one that I've really felt an urge to be an active part of, and you can see I've been sort of doing 4 days of rugby in the past few years. So, you know, rugby's really been the thing for me, and I have no idea what I'd be doing if not refereeing rugby.
And you, Katie, you're actually working outside, or you are now outside the sort of rugby world in the sense of your profession. So, but I'm wondering how potentially rugby has shaped your decision or that journey to get where you are today.
Yeah, I think I don't think it was ever in doubt, but if I hadn't, I don't know. The course that I did at university, I did French and politics, so because I was over sort of 2 different colleges, I didn't really make that many course mates because I just didn't get to spend enough time with those people. So I think, yeah, without literally all of my university mates basically are rugby mates. So I think I probably would have been quite lonely.
I'm a bit sorry, all right, because for me, it's not about just choosing rugby specifically, although I love rugby and rugby's my thing. I put a huge emphasis on just picking something. University is something you can go to, and you can literally be any human that you want to be. If you come from a small town or a big town, you can go to a uni at the other end of the country and you can be whatever type of person you want to be, because there's so many people at the unis. There's such a wide variety of different humans, and everyone's kind of figuring themselves out. So it's pretty cool when you get to uni, you can literally be whoever you want to be. And then when you go into a team environment, it's kind of what we touched on earlier, but it's just so nice just having people around. And don't get me wrong, you don't like everyone. Not everyone becomes your best mate, but because you're playing rugby specifically, because you're putting your body on the line, you have that certain level of respect and that understanding for each other. And for me, there's nothing really compares. Because it's not just the bad times that help you out; it's the good times as well. You got people to share it with, and you get some weird people playing rugby as well, and they're just really funny. You can just have a good laugh, a good time, and so yeah. I don't really know. The one specific reason would just be that if you invest fully in it and you keep an open mind, there's going to be a lot more. The good times are going to outweigh the bad comfortably. So that would be my reasoning for joining rugby at university. I honestly couldn't recommend it enough, to be honest. If rugby's your thing, or if you don't have a thing, then choose rugby. But choose something at the very least, in my opinion. Yeah. So
I think my reason would be sort of to have a community to get behind you. Like, I think team sports and rugby in particular, we talk a lot about respecting your opponents, respecting your teammates, respecting yourself, respecting the referee. And I think that's a really key concept. And especially when you're coming from a different place, coming to a whole new environment where you're not familiar with your surroundings and stuff like that, to have a group to sort of bond with. Even as a referee, we have society meetings that we go to, we watch games together and stuff like that. It's just a good environment to be part of, and to have everyone to support you and to sort of be part of your life in different ways.
What do you think, Katie?
I'd echo kind of what both have said about community and that support network around you, but also I think the opportunities it can give. There are people who've, any sport, not just rugby, but even if you've never tried something or played something, I mean, Exeter, there were loads of wacky sports, like loads of things I'd never even heard of, but people...
We had Quidditch at my uni.
Yeah, exactly, Quidditch.
People rolling around on broomsticks.
Yeah.
There was people rolling around on broomsticks. You can do anything.
But if that's your thing, it doesn't matter. If you've got somewhere to channel that passion, as well as keeping you fit, physically active, which is obviously health is so, so important, and mental health as well. The social side for me was massive. We played hard, we worked really hard, but we also had so much fun. Some really unforgettable memories, and just the opportunities it can, some of the girls at Exeter have gone on to play for England, they're now professional. You don't know when you sign up at uni, who's going to be the next, I don't know, England fly half or whatever. So the opportunities it can give you. Also, there were loads of courses for refereeing or for coaching that were free that otherwise you would have to pay for normally, I think. So taking opportunities like that, and I think just some of the best times, the memories it can bring you. So the year I got diagnosed, the girls got to the Bucks final at Twickenham. And obviously I didn't know if I was going to be able to go, they're your best friends. Obviously I wanted to be there. And I was water girl on the day, and I'd had my first round of chemo the day before. So I didn't actually know if I'd be up for it, but I got there and it was just the best thing, even to be there. We won, by the way, we beat Hartpury, sorry Josh. But it was just the best thing ever, and that like real mix of emotion, having all of your best mates around you, and obviously winning for competitive people, there's nothing like it. But yeah, it was just, and like that's like one of my university highlights, massively stand out.
I mean, quite impressive that you were present at that finals after your first day of chemo. I mean,
I wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah, I think that kind of personifies it or sums it up, doesn't it? Like, you go through something as grueling as that the day before, but you know, you can just feel all the energy of the group and all the energy of the girls. You know, it's such a big day. Like, you're going to be there. Like you say, you wouldn't miss it. You wouldn't have missed it. You know? And I think that kind of sums it up. There's no better way than summing it up, to be honest, than that. Day after chemo, still getting to a game and still getting the water on, make sure everyone's hydrated. And that's probably the reason they won, because everyone was hydrated.
Oh, obviously, yeah.